Okay, so for first hour left off, we discussed the firing of Fort Sumter, and no one was killed in this particular battle. It only lasted a day. Um, the Union troops left the day after, um, because if they backed down, if they surrendered before even shots are fired, what does that psychologically say about the Union? That there may be weak. Yeah, absolutely. So warfare is not only strategically, like physically, but also psychologically. So this newspaper article that we're going to look at is a response by Virginians. Now, according to your map, has Virginia seceded yet? No, they have not left. All right. So 3 days after the firing of Fort Sumter, Virginia said, the procession has swelled to about 3,000 persons by the time the column halted at the Tredegar Iron Works to witness the raising of a large Southern Confederacy flag over the main building of the works, which was done by the employees of the establishment. Without delay, the flag was hauled up, the band played the Marseillaise, and cannon thundered a welcome to the banner of the South. So, how are the Virginians feeling about the firing at Fort Sumter? What are their emotions based on what that says? Oh, I don't think they're confused. What's a procession? What's a procession? If you proceed from one place to the other, what are you doing? Moving. Okay. So how many people were in this procession? 3,000. Okay. You could also say this is a parade. Okay. Where were they headed? No. The column halted where? Tredegar Ironworks. What do you think an ironworks is for? What about iron?
Tool.
Huh?
Tool, a blacksmith.
Okay. So you're saying someone's working with iron to make things? So like a factory? Like this is a large factory. Okay. What are they making? In this case, cannons. And it says, and I kind of skipped over it, for the use of the Confederate government, which is interesting that they've already started doing that, yet they're not part of the Confederacy yet. Okay. So obviously they are happy or sad? I think they're happy. They're excited. They have a band, y'all, playing the Marseillaise, which is a French song, French anthem, French Revolution. What else did they do when they got to the Tredegar Iron Works? Yeah, they raised up a flag. Flags are very important. They're symbols. Okay? And this is a Southern Confederacy flag. So again, they are not part of the Confederacy yet. So they're extremely excited. And I think one of your questions at the bottom says, how do they feel about it? No, how do they feel?
Good.
Yeah, they feel good. They're excited. How do you know that? Yeah, write that down. Celebrating those streets. So, who do you think called for volunteers to fight at this point? Which side do you think?
Union.
Okay. They certainly did. The call to arms. So here's the flyer back here. Call to arms, 75,000 volunteers wanted. Washington, April 15th. And I was just reading an article and it said they called for volunteers for 90 days. 90 days. So what does that suggest they thought about the war?
Very short.
It's going to be very, very short. It says under the act of Congress for calling out the militia to execute the laws of the Union to suppress insurrection. What is an insurrection?
Like a riot.
A riot or a rebellion? Yeah. So those volunteers are going to suppress or stop the rebellion by the Secretary of War. So 2 days later, I believe, April 17th, there's also another call to arms, except for on this particular one, it says to arms, to arms, to arms, defend your homes and firesides. So what side is this? Who's going to be on the defense?
Confederacy.
The Confederacy. So they're the ones rebelling. The Union's going to go after them to bring them back. It says, defend your homes and firesides. 300 able-bodied young men are wanted to meet in Lexington on Saturday, April 20th, 1861, to form 3 companies of volunteers for the defense of Virginia against the invasion threatened by her northern foes. Your state is in danger. Rally to her standard. Standard is another word for flag. Lexington, April 17th, 1861. So 300. So this would be like a small, probably, there were probably more volunteers called for in different places. But for a company of soldiers, that usually incorporated 100 men. So if they're just asking for young men from Lexington, they're asking for others elsewhere as well. So that question can be answered on the back of your notes there. Both sides did. Both sides. What's next? All right. So on April 17th into the end of June, there were 4 other states that seceded. And so you can color in the final 4, if you will. That includes Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas. So color them the same color you colored the others. And if you haven't made a key or started a key yet,
Like color a different color?
No. color it the same color.
Mhm.
Is there-
North Carolina.
The ones that are yellow are the ones that join between May and June, or April and June. They should all be the same color. Okay?
I did I just use them?
Okay. So if you were going to make a key in the same color, what would you call the states? There you go, yeah. CSA or Confederate States of America. Now, another thing that I need to point out, and this is why you have 2 different other colored pencils, there are some slave states that never left the Union. And this is really important. Do you know what those are? There are 4 of them. Missouri is one. So if you will color in these slave states that did not leave the Union a different color, that'd be awesome. Missouri is one of them.
Is
Kentucky is another. Good.
Ohio?
Nope, they were a free state.
Kansas?
Nope, that became a free state.
Illinois?
Nope. Go to your east. Maryland. and one tiny little one next to Maryland, Delaware. Those are your 4 slave states that did not leave the Union. And those are called, when we're talking about this time period, border states. So you should come up with a question. If you're a young historian, you have slave states that didn't leave the Union. Your next question would be,
Why?
why? Can you come up with a hypothesis?
Maybe they thought that they were going to end up being able to keep slaves anyways.
That they were going to be able to keep slaves anyway? Yeah, I mean, that's what Lincoln said. It's true. Any other reasons? What do you think?
They're not fully honest. They're like half and half of people wanting slavery and people not wanting slavery.
Okay, so maybe even within the state, some people are against slavery. Okay, that could be one. What else?
Since they're like border states, they probably don't want to get, if they do get in a war, they probably don't want to be the first ones to be attacked.
Yeah, I think that's also a big one. They would be the border if they left. So they're going to be the first ones to be invaded. All right. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Anything else?
What about it was a bad idea?
Sure. It's a bad idea to leave the Union. Because what are the Confederate States having to do from scratch? What do they have to create?
Different union.
A different union or a different government completely. And that can be difficult. What do you think?
What else states didn't leave?
No, Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware. Now, I'll tell you, if Maryland had seceded, that would have been a problem. Why? Anybody know? Do you know what's in between Maryland and Virginia?
DC.
It's Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. So if Maryland had left, our government would have been surrounded by a different country or rebellious states. So I think Maryland maybe chose wisely for D.C.'s sake. What do you think about the chances of winning? Maybe that was a reason why they didn't leave. Yeah, so maybe they thought the South was going to lose. Maybe they felt like the Union had more strength to them. So maybe that's why they didn't leave. Possibly. It's probably a combination of all those things that you've said. Okay. All right. So on your legend, after coloring in the border states, I would just say border states with slaves, or something like slave states that didn't leave. So you'll know the difference. Okay. All right, finishing up our notes here. Mine are over there. The same day that Lexington called for volunteers is the same day that Virginia left the Union. So on the back of your notes, it says Virginia joined the Confederacy April 17th, 1861. And the capital of the Confederacy became Richmond, Virginia. Which is weird and logical at the same time. So Virginia borders the United States capital. Richmond is also in Virginia. So we have capitals like almost, I want to say 30 miles apart, but extremely close. All right. And if you capture the capital of your enemy what have you done effectively? If you've captured the government of your enemy, you've won. Okay?
It's like checkers.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So it's interesting that they picked Richmond because it's not very well protected from the north necessarily. So a lot of people put their capitals in the center of their country for protective purposes, but they didn't. And there's a reason for that. It was the largest city in the south, and it had the most factories. Because if you were going to fight a war, what do you need? You need weapons, you need resources, you need ammunition, you need railroads, you need everything, food. And they have food because they're agricultural, right? But Richmond would be able to supply a lot of that. So it's kind of catch-22, meaning if they don't put their capital there, they'll be up a creek. But if they do put their capital there, they're vulnerable to attack. All right? So Richmond becomes the capital. So that's on April 17th. The Confederacy is fully formed by June. And on July 21st, the first major land battle occurs. All right? So this is called, and it's tricky, sometimes they have two different names. The South used cities to call the battles. The North usually used some physical or geographical term. So the South would have called it the Battle of First Manassas, but the North called it the First Battle of Bull Run. Most people would call it Bull Run today. So on your timeline, on the very front, I think it's the last thing. Battle of Bull Run of First Manassas, July 21st, 1861. And it was fought just outside of Washington, D.C. So in the first battle, both sides had lots of people. I was doing a little bit of research. It said that both sides had, what are those numbers? Between 32 and 34,000 men, but they only sent out 18,000 each, roughly. Okay. And the idea was that the Union was going to go take Richmond, the capital, which is a logical first step. And then it would be over. But both sides weren't trained very well. And it ended up being very, very chaotic. And the Union retreated. And some historians say that if the Confederacy had gone after the troops and the Union troops and wiped them out, that it would have been over, like the whole thing. But they didn't, because the Confederacy was also kind of scattered all over the place. This is also known as the Picnic War or Picnic Battle, because there were several people who went to go watch it. And I was reading why. So this was from the Smithsonian. They talked about how there were senators who went to go watch this battle, representatives. People were selling food so you could watch. There were opera glasses so you could get a close look. So a lot of people thought, oh, well, they're just going there for the entertainment. Now, there were a lot of reporters there to also document the first and final victory of the Union. But when they watched it and all chaos broke out, including, civilians having to run for their lives kind of thing, they realized something pretty major, that this was not going to be a 90-day battle. This was going to be a very, very long war. Okay. So according to your notes, it says, following the Battle of First Manassas or Bull Run, oh, we didn't get to that. As we scooch down, first major land battle of the Civil War took place near Manassas, Virginia on July 21st, 1861. And at this battle, I'm going to fill this in, the Union Army lost to the Confederate Army. And the citizens of both the Confederacy and the United States realized this was going to be a long, bloody engagement. The kind of got their slides out of order, I feel like. Or their notes out of order. So a reaction to the loss from the union standpoint. So 5 days later, after this, from the New York Times, it says Governor Morgan, it will be seen by his proclamation published in another column, has concluded under the requisition of the president for more troops to call for 25,000 additional volunteers to serve for 3 years or during the war. Now, like I said earlier, the call for troops earlier was only for 90 days. So, following the Battle of First Manassas, what did the governor do? Call for more troops. And for how long? I would add that as well. For 3 years or during the war. It continues to say, it is expected at Fortress Monroe that Magruder, the rebel commander at Yorktown, emboldened by the success at Manassas Junction, will make a demonstration in the direction of Hampton or Newport News. All our regiments there are now inside their entrenchments and ready for him whenever he chooses to show himself. So I'm not sure if this actually happened, but this is a great example of, I want to say, being overly dramatic, but there was rumor that whoever Magruder was an officer. Was he from the Union side or the Confederate side? How do you know?
It says rebel.
Yeah. So rebel commander. All right. So it says that they're going to march to Hampton or Newport News, but he continues to say that our troops are ready for it, and they're already hunkered down and ready for him to show himself. So he's ready, hopefully. And that is it for The Country Goes to War. Okay. So do you have any blanks that are missing? I know if you weren't here yesterday, you could borrow someone's notes and fill those in. All right, well, let's take a look at your map because we have one last thing to color in. What is that? The what? The Free States or the North, yeah. Now, you have to remember the border states are part of the Union, okay? So I think the first one. All right. So the pale yellow states are your Union. So if you put Confederate States of America, your third color should be the United States of America. There's so many names for each side, sometimes it does get a little bit confusing. I'll leave you to color a little bit. Can I pause this?